Hey Rams, it's Miss Moreau. We are learning today about percent proportions. Now this is page 55 and 56 in your notes. Now I'm going to give you a clue, okay? There are only two different types of percent problems that you'll see in 6th grade. The first one has to do with converting, like looking at representing something with a percent, like a fraction, decimal, or percent, or with a model right there. The other way is always with a percent proportion. Okay, and it's when you have a percent of a number. All right, so the way we do this is what's called a strip diagram. Okay, and I'm going to write this here because we're going to refer to this all the time. It looks like a fraction strip. A strip diagram. Now, we always have a number that goes right up here, and that number is always 100%, but there's a number right down here in this little space, and that number represents whatever is 100% of that situation, okay? And we'll talk a little bit more about what that means. When we see a situation with it, okay? Now, you're going to hear us say a whole lot in this unit, part over whole equals percent over 100. We're going to say it every single day. So we're going to write it down here. Part over whole equals percent over 100. We're going to say it over and over and over until you're tired of hearing it. Okay? Now, our first example of how to put this into a word problem, what this means, okay? Alana spent $21 of her $300 paycheck on a gift. What percent of her paycheck did she spend on a gift? So in this situation, we have the amount of money that she earned, and then we have the part of her paycheck that was spent on the gift, okay? So the part is spent on a gift. Okay? The whole represents the whole paycheck. Okay? And then it's asking me what percent. So that means I do not know that number. That means that these other two pieces in here in my problem are going to represent the part and the whole because it asks me what percent. Okay? So the two things we're comparing are the amount she spent and her whole paycheck. So which one would be the part? Well, the part she spent would be the $21. $21 is spent on a gift, and $300 is her whole paycheck. Now, it really, really helps if you put a word whenever you say whole what? Whole paycheck here, okay? Now, the cool part of this is when I put these in here and we can represent it over here, okay? That's what makes it really worthwhile. Okay, so I take my part, that was 21, and I put it over a whole amount. I'm going to have to put it over my $300. So she spent 21 of her $300. That's the part. This whole column here represents dollars, and this whole column represents percentages, okay? So it says what percent. That means I'm going to put a little question mark here. Now, I always put a 100 on the bottom here because 100 represents a whole. So 100% represents her whole paycheck. The bottom row here all represents whole. So $100 or 100% represents $300. Okay, so we can use some benchmark numbers here. And we're going to write these in for a second. Okay, if I said 50% of her paycheck would be how many dollars? 150. Okay, well, we know she definitely spent less than 50%. Okay, what if I went with 25%? Well, half of 150 would be $75. So we know that we have definitely spent at least less than 25%. So your model here is going to help you, okay? Now, to solve this, you solve it just like any other proportion. Okay, we don't have the labels over here, but we could say the top number was the amount she spent and the bottom number was her whole check. But on this problem, we still look at the same way. How do I get from 300 to 100? Divide by 3. And whatever I do to the bottom, I do to the top. And so I can divide by 3. So 21 divided by 3 is 7. Well, that's great. Now, let's fill in over here how this is represented, okay? I have my $100. 100% represents $300. Now, if I look at my $21, if I think about right here, 21 is about a third of 75% $75 here. So I'm going to write $21 here, and I'm going to write 7% up here. Okay? Now, the really cool part of this is when I turn my picture, I turn my strip diagram here, and I'm going to get a different color. I'm going to write over it with a big bold color here, but I'm going to show you something really cool. You ready? This is the part over the whole equals percent over 100. These numbers, when you set it up correctly here, it's going to give you exactly the same numbers you have over here. Isn't that great? Okay, but this just helps us check for reasonableness. We know it's about a third of 75, so 7 should be about a third of that number right there. Just a little bit less, okay? So this means that she spent 7% of her paycheck on this gift. Okay, we're going to do 2 more. All right. The sales tax where Amanda lives is 7%. If she buys $42 worth of merchandise at Target, how much was she charged for tax? So the numbers I'm looking at here are 7 and 42. Okay? And then his question is, how much was she charged for tax? So one of my numbers over here is going to represent the tax. And one number is going to represent her whole cost, like her what she's purchasing, okay? So 7 is already the percent. It gave me that. I don't have to guess. The question is, where do I put 42? Is that 42 going to be the part that she was taxed or the whole amount, the whole cost of her purchase? Okay. She paid tax. Her tax was 7% of that cost right there. So the part is the tax, because the part goes with what your percent is, okay? So the part is the tax. The whole is the whole cost. Yeah. The whole cost. Now, 42. Was her tax $42 or was her total $42? That was the total. Okay, because it's asking how much was the tax. So that question right there tells me, if I can understand that the part is the tax, it tells me that I'm trying to find the part. So if I'm trying to find the part, I'm trying to find that number. Part over whole, so my whole was a 42. Okay, my percent was a 7, and my whole is 100. Okay, we're going to set this up for a second because it's going to get a little tricky, okay? The bottom row represents 100%. This is your whole amount. So $42 is the whole cost before tax, okay? Now, let's narrow this down here and let's say 50% would be $21. All right. Well, we're going to be at 7%. We're going to be way over here even smaller, aren't we? Could we make this even simpler? Okay, I could narrow it down and get like 25% here, but could I even go by tens? Right? If I cut this into 5 parts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 equal parts, each one is 10%. Well, remember 10% is 1/10. What's 1/10 of 42? $4.20. When I divide by 10, I move that decimal one place to the left. So it's $4.20 is 10% here. Look at that. My 7% is going to be even less. My 7% will be even less than $4.20 right there. Okay, there's a little bit of reasonableness for you to help you out, okay? When you use your benchmarks, they don't just have to be the 25 and 75% like we did on here. You can use your tens because that may make things easier for you. Now, you've been learning about proportions with looking for a scale factor. Okay, here's a new strategy for you, okay? This is going to be a really big deal in this unit, so make for sure you're paying attention. Okay, if I had words to flash on the screen to say pay attention, I would. Okay, sometimes you're not going to find a scale factor. There's not going to be a nice, easy way to do this, no matter what you do. So I want to point something out. We know that we could check our math with cross products, right? I could say 42 times 7, that dot means times, equals 100 times my question mark. You can put whatever variable you want there, okay? So this is going to mean the same thing as cross, multiplying, and dividing. Okay, this is a strategy y'all have not seen yet. Okay, it means we multiply at an angle here. multiply 42 times 7. I'm going to go right over here. Okay, 294. So 294 equals 100 times what? Okay, so we cross multiply and divide. Basically, you take the two numbers that are diagonal from each other and you multiply them. Okay, remember, think about your multiplication symbol. Your numbers go like that. So you multiply what's diagonally, and then you divide by the other one. I need a different color here. You divide by the other one that's left over. So I'm going to divide straight across there. Multiply diagonally and divide by 100. So we had 294, and when I divide it by 100, I'm going to take that decimal and go 1, 2 places to the left. But remember, we said it was going to be somewhere less than $4.20. Look at that. $2.94 is. Now, this is a tough one. This is not easy numbers. But I wanted to introduce it to you so when we get to class, we can talk through it in more detail, okay? You're going to be out of time, but I want to help set this one up for you, and then we will address this one in class as well, because I don't want you to run out of time on your video here, okay? Jacob has a jar of jelly beans. He shares 30%. Something else you can do is read it with the word part. He shares a part of the jelly beans. Oh, that's going to help me. Say, my percent represents the part shared. Okay? His brother got 36. How many did he begin with? So that 36, is that the number he shared or what he had? That's what he shared, so it tells you that it's the part. And then you're looking for the whole this time, okay? I want you to try to set it up here. 36 over what number will be 30 over 100. I want you to try your cross, multiply, and divide here to see if you can do that, okay? You would multiply 36 times 100, multiply diagonally, right? And then you're going to divide by the other number that's left over. So I'm going to help give you some clues here. Okay, multiply diagonally and divide by the one left over. All right, and that'll be a strategy. We're going to practice in class and go into more detail about why it works. But it's just introducing it to you right now, okay? Have a good night, Rams.